Hi, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And this is ReDIScover, a conversation where we travel through everything that makes up the essence of who we are and how to live authentically and imaginatively.
Here, we invite you to join us as we explore and discuss a little bit of, well, everything.
From Disney to cultivating your most authentic life to deepening your relationships and talking about the real stuff.
We hope you'll find this a space that speaks to you, encourages you, and brings a little bit of magic into your day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome back to ReDIScover.
We took a little bit of a summer vacation for the month of July, stretched our legs, got outside. We hope you guys have been having a really fun summer, and thank you for sticking around while we took a little hiatus. We are so happy to be back, especially this month, because we have a really fun and exciting theme, which I'm going to let Jess tell you about because you guys, this is her month to shine.
Yes, as you can probably tell from the name of my blog and everything that I tend to post online, this month is my favorite topic because it is a month all about travel. The travel bug has hit us both, as I'm sure it has hit many of you, especially in the past year and a half where we haven't been able to travel as much. So I'm sure a lot of us are daydreaming about where we want to go now that the world is starting to open up. This episode particularly, we are going to dive into some of our favorite domestic travel locations within the United States. And we've each picked a few places that are really close to our hearts. So it's going to be really fun to dive into those. And then stay tuned for the rest of the month to see where else we take you on the journey.
Yeah, we thought this would be a fun way to kick off travel month. For those of you who live in the US, I know that as travel kind of becomes a thing we're thinking about, or maybe we're pricing out some vacations, looking at fun Airbnbs, kind of thinking about domestic travel is sort of like the way to ease back into it. And we're so lucky here in the US to have such a diverse geography and so many different cultures represented, and some popular places and some lesser known places. We've got a little of both.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to dive right in.
Yes, me too. Yeah, I think that's really important to mention. I know we are all yearning to travel abroad. Well, maybe not everyone, but a lot of us are yearning to travel abroad. And you can't discount the stuff that we have right in our own backyard because there's so many destinations in the US that are so unique. And so many people from all over the world travel here. And I do feel lucky that we get to see a lot of corners of the country that you typically wouldn't if you were from out of the country, because a lot of people come here and go to the main cities, and there's just so much to see in some of the smaller cities or in little nooks and crannies. And we're excited to tell you about the ones that we've found along our own journeys. So, Kristen, if you want to start with your first location, we would love to welcome you to the floor.
Well, thank you so much. I feel like I'm speaking at a commencement or something.
The travel commencement speech.
Yes, my travel commencement speech. So my first pick is actually kind of a twofer. They're both places in South Carolina, so I decided to kind of merge them together. They are pretty close driving distance. You could totally go between the two of them in a day, but I've spent a lot of time in both places, so I feel like I can actually speak to them. So they are Charleston and Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. So I'll start with Hilton Head because that's just what feels right. So for those of you who don't know, Disney does have a resort in Hilton Head, on Hilton Head Island. And my family and I go there, except for obviously last year, pretty much every springtime. And I'm someone who grew up camping. That was kind of like our vacation. We didn't travel internationally. We were very outdoorsy kids, and we were just a family that liked to be outside all summer long. So we would pretty much camp from Memorial Day to Labor Day, almost every weekend, or sometimes for weeks at a time. So Hilton Head really lends itself to that outdoorsy, just simple vibe. It really is sort of this getting back to basics and finding time to be together in nature. And there's no, it's not like bright lights, big city. no one's going out on the town. You're like grabbing ice cream in your flip-flops and riding your bike around the island. We pretty much park our cars and just rent bikes for the whole time that we're there. We go down to the beach and like collect seashells and swim, and we have campfires, and there are all these beautiful bike paths under those big, beautiful Carolina live oak trees, and you can hear like the cicadas during the day and the crickets at night, and it just feels like Americana summertime to me. There's just something very nostalgic about it, almost like a life that you never led, but maybe you read about. It feels like you get to live it there. And obviously we love staying at the Disney Resort because you do get those touches of Disney. And I know, Jess, you've stayed there too.
Yes, I
It's
love it.
beautiful. Yeah.
So great. They have a great pool
Mhm.
and the grounds are just so beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful and just so relaxing. And I really feel like, and my family has totally shared this sentiment, we all really feel like when we're there, we really spend the most quality time together because there aren't a lot of distractions when you're in a big city or, even like at a theme park or something. There's so many things to do and you're kind of on this like go, go, go schedule. But there we sort of just have no real agenda. And I love that about it. There's definitely some fun places to eat. That'll be a common theme throughout this episode, of course.
Obviously, it's us.
Love to try the food, the cuisine of the region that we're in. And of course, South Carolina is Gullah country, known for all that low country, like super traditional Southern food that has just a lot of history to it. And so there's some great seafood places. We love a place called Hudson's. It's right on a dock, like right on the water. You can sit out there. It's very low key. There's sometimes live music. That one's a fun place to go. And then we also love a place called Cahill's, which is a little outside of Hilton Head in a town called Bluffton, South Carolina. And it's literally a working farm. But there's
Ooh,
a restaurant on site and there's like a farm store. You can literally buy like a 5-pound bag of grits and see chickens walking around and then like go eat brunch at the same time. And it's just so fun and food is delicious. The people are so friendly, but you got to come hungry because the portions are Southern.
American size.
For sure. But I'd say overall, just Hilton Head is a great place to go and unwind and get outdoors. We love to go like kayaking first thing in the morning, and you can kind of go in like the inlets and see where they harvest oysters. And then there's like dolphins just like jumping by your kayak, and you're in like a bay. You're not even in the ocean. So it's strange to see dolphins there, but you're like, is this even real? It's just so cool. If you just feel like after the year we've had, you need to unwind in the great outdoors, I would definitely recommend Hilton Head. And then if you do feel like you need a little bit of a city vibe, but a very walkable city, a very friendly and approachable city, Charleston is not too far away. And I definitely think that you get that Southern charm and definitely like a lot of rich history, obviously. But it's modernized. Obviously, like the quintessential places are Rainbow Row in Charleston, which is that famous street where like all the homes are these like pastel rainbow colors. And it really is beautiful to walk down. I love to watch the sunset on the Battery, which is like right on the water. There's like sort of this raised walkway / bike path and all of these beautiful like antebellum Southern mansions on the opposite side, and just seeing the sunset and all of the palm trees and the water. And it's just like charming is the word that comes to mind. It's just so charming. And you can walk around the Charleston City Market, which is this huge outdoor marketplace that has artisans and just local growers and purveyors. And it's massive. And it's all these just really friendly people who just make beautiful things, and they want to talk to you and share their stories with you. And I think if you are someone who likes to immerse yourself in the culture of a place, that is definitely a must do. I've had great conversations with locals there that just really like added a lot of authenticity to being there. And then as far as places to stay, I think cities like Charleston really do the bed and breakfast concept very well. A couple of favorites are actually kind of close to each other on King Street. One of them is called the King's Courtyard Inn, and the other one that's like almost right next to it is called the Fulton Lane Inn. And they're just beautiful, like light and airy, sort of like old-fashioned style rooms, but not too much so. They're not like froofy or anything. And you get free breakfast every morning. And there's like a beautiful open air courtyard where you can have your coffee in the morning, and it just feels like another world. You're just totally transported, and it's just very relaxing. And I love it. And then once you've had your morning coffee, if it's Sunday, you can go over to Hall's Chop House, not named after Jess, even though that it shares her last name. But on Sundays, they have a gospel brunch, and the food is awesome. Definitely try the crab cake, eggs Benedict. So good. The service is phenomenal. We like had a great time. The owner was walking around, like just chatting with everyone. It was just this very lively environment, and it just felt very Charleston. There's so many places. Poogan's Porch is like literally in this
there.
Yeah, it's in this like Victorian house, and there's this big porch,
cool.
and the food is indulgent for sure. But you do a lot of walking, so it balances out. Yeah, I just love it, and I can't wait to go back. So that is my somewhat comprehensive rundown of Charleston and Hilton Head. And if you want a beach day while you're in Charleston, there are a couple of beaches close by. Of course, I love a beach. Folly Beach is a great one, and I also love Sullivan's Island in South Carolina as well. So,
what a dreamy description of both places. And I have to say I've been to both, and I totally agree with you. They are wonderful.
Disclaimer though, in the summertime, Charleston, it's very humid. Like if you think Florida humidity, it almost feels even more intense than that. So if you don't love the muggy Florida humidity in the summertime, I feel like spring and autumn are great times to visit South Carolina. So yeah.
Such great destinations. All right, we are gonna fly on up, and we're going to have a totally opposite energy of what Kristen just described, and we are going to go to, of course, New York City.
Woo!
We have to talk about it. I think New York City has almost turned into my new Disney World. I like to say, because when I lived at Disney, I would fly to New York almost as often as I used to fly to Disney when I lived in Buffalo.
So to me, it seems like it has a very similar feel in the sense of there's so much to do.
I love to plan out my trips. There's like shows to go to, places to eat, things to do. And you can have a totally different trip every single time you go. So everyone is going to have their own interpretation of New York City for that reason. I'll just go through some of my highlights for when I'm planning a trip to New York, the things that I look most forward to. The first one being, I know we cannot do it yet, but Broadway shows are so unique to the area. Whether or not you love musical theater or any sort of theater, Broadway shows are just a phenomenal experience, and I think the best investment of your time and money that you can make in New York, because you get to see people performing beautiful shows. And I feel like everyone involved in a Broadway show is part of a passion project, whether it be the crew or the cast, the performers, the writers, like it all came together, and it's just a beautiful piece of art that you get to witness. If you can, when it's open, try to do at least one, because that is always the highlight of my trip. Times Square is, of course, the most tourist type of destination in New York City, but it is like a classic experience.
I agree. Yeah.
Especially the first time you go and you see all of the billboards and all of the signs all lit up, whether you're there during the day or at night. It is just an astounding sight. It's almost like overstimulating.
Yes.
Because everything, it's so huge, and like that's the place you see in movies. That's the place you see
when they do the ball drop for New Year's Eve.
It is the most iconic spot. Honestly, for me, now that I've been there quite a few times, it gets a little crowded for me. And I would say my favorite thing to do there is just to go into the Disney store. But who's surprised by that?
It's beautiful.
It's an amazing Disney store, and there's 2 floors. The escalator is really cool. It's like decorated really well. Another really big thing to do in New York City is to go to the parks. And I'm going to talk about my two favorites. Central Park, number one. There's a reason it's in all the movies.
True.
It goes on forever and ever and ever. It's gigantic. And I don't know, to me at least, I feel like it's like the most romanticized part of New York City, but in a good way. When I'm there, I feel like I'm in a movie. Like you'll see people like having gatherings for birthdays or like little brunches with mimosas that they bring to the park and like sitting with their friends. You'll see sometimes there's people who are in choirs or people who are doing dance classes or yoga classes like organized in the park. I don't know who organizes them, but there's just always things going on. But I think my favorite thing is when you see live music, like somebody's just playing guitar or playing whatever instrument they bring or singing, and there's a little crowd gathered around. We sat on one of the main fountains last time and listened to this guy play guitar for like 30-40 minutes, and it was just so cute. It was such a relaxing moment, and if the weather is good, it is awesome there. That's for sure. And the other park I wanted to mention is Bryant Park as well. And that park's it's a smaller than Central Park, but it still is absolutely fantastic. I feel like it's in the middle of everything too. Like you are so close to everything. And at Christmas time when I went there, it was all set up like there was a Christmas tree and an ice skating rink and all these little shops and restaurants to go to. And I don't know. I just love Bryant Park. I think it's like a very enjoyable place to go and sit and to walk around and grab a bite to eat because there always seems to be food there. Speaking of food, I don't even know how I can consolidate the amount of restaurants I've been to in New York City that I'm in love with. But I can list off a few. John's Pizzeria is the one that my family and I went to as kids all the time. They have great pizza, of course. This most recent trip, I actually found some really cool new places to go to. One being Lily's Victorian, and that one had all these pink flowers on the outside of the restaurant, which I thought was really charming and fun. There was also one called Lulu, New York City. That one also had pink flowers on the outside of the door, which was great. So that tends to be a theme. But they had some of the coolest drinks that I've found. So I honestly recommend that one for the drinks. And it's like a French bistro, so the whole menu is so good. And oh my gosh, I have to talk about the place I went on my birthday. It was called the UES, the Upper East Side. It's an ice cream speakeasy. So you may have seen me post about this one on Instagram, but you're going to want to make a reservation for this one ahead of time. Disclaimer. However, you book a reservation for the storage room, quote unquote, and you show up to the UES and it looks like a one-room tiny little ice cream shop, and you can get ice cream there if you want. But if you have a reservation for the storage room, they open up the wall of ice cream and you walk into this beautiful bar restaurant type area. And they are playing all of the best music, like Nat King Cole, Love from The Parent Trap 1998, as well as like doo-wop music and just any type of music that gives you the vibe of ice cream shop. Like they're playing it in there. It's so fun.
The waitress told me that the Pandora station they were using was called Golden Oldies, so I definitely went home and downloaded that right away.
And the drinks were great. They had drinks themed after Gossip Girl and Devil Wears Prada and all these iconic New York things. That's like one of my new favorite recommendations. And let me just think if there's anything else classic in New York. Levain Bakery has the best cookies. I think they're up there. I don't know. I think Gideon's Cookies at Disney Springs might be better, but
I was just about to ask.
Levain it's like right there.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, like, okay, but is it better than Gideon's?
I don't think so.
I agree. But I think they're neck and neck.
They are neck and neck. And I think Gideon's is a little excessive sometimes. Like
That's fair. Yeah.
it's dense, and
Mhm.
Levain is dense too, but like I don't feel as gluttonous eating
Mm.
Levain as I do when I eat
Yeah.
Gideon's.
Gideon's cookie takes me like a week to eat. A Levant cookie I could eat in like 2 days. Like I could split that in half and have like half
Yeah.
and then the other half.
Yeah, they're really good. They are
Mhm.
really, really good. But they also have more locations now than like when I first started going to them. So that's nice. So you don't have to wait in a actually you still kind of have to wait in a line. They're very, very popular. Those are some of the highlights that are coming to my mind at the current moment. And I love it. And if you can ever go at Christmas time, I think we talked about this in our Christmas episode, but it's just the most magical place to be during Christmas. They have all of the displays in the windows of Saks Fifth Avenue. They have the Rockefeller tree. They have ice skating rinks. They have just lights and Christmas decor all over the place, especially Macy's. Like, it's so cute. It's so romantic. It's crazy busy, but it's all part of the experience. So I love it.
That made me so excited because I actually am going at Christmas time this year. And I just can't wait to be back. It's been so long since I've been back, and everything you said is 100% accurate. But it is like when you were describing Central Park and how there's just always some expression of life going on, whether it's
Yes.
celebrating someone's birthday or getting together to exercise together or something. It's always an event. Like we're not just working out. We're like gonna do yoga in Central Park, and we're not just having brunch. We're gonna like make a day of it. Like I love that energy that New York has where it's just like, well, why not take this ordinary thing that we do and make it extraordinary, because that is what life is about. And
yeah,
I love that it's just a celebration. It's definitely somewhere where like I think a weekend is like a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Like a few
I
days.
usually do like a 2 to 5 days and feel so satisfied by the end because you're so go.
Yeah. And then you need a nap for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying though? It's just like Disney. Like it's just a different.
Yeah, it really is. So I was debating where to take us next because I thought, okay, like while we're on the topic of like cities up north, I should go to this place. But maybe after we were just in New York, we need a little bit of a breather. I don't know, Jess. What are you feeling?
I'm feeling let's take a breather.
Okay, let's take a breather. All right. We're going back down to the deep south. I really like left a piece of my heart in this city that I'm about to talk about. And I just keep going back. Now, it's a pretty easy drive from where I live now in Orlando. So it is a lot easier for me to get back. But once upon a time, I was known to drive from New York to Savannah, Georgia, and back again in 72 hours. And for those of you keeping score, that's about a 14-hour drive one way. So that's how dedicated I am to this city and just all of the peace that it brings me. I feel very grounded when I'm there. And I think that that's something that I actively seek because I tend to be someone who kind of like lives on this like more frenetic vibration, like day to day. I'm very like deadlines and go and move and hustle. And I think being in the South reminds me that it's okay to slow down sometimes. And this city really captures that. So come on down to Georgia and come to Savannah. Now, Savannah and Charleston, I know everyone says like, okay, if you've been to New Orleans, you'd love Charleston. If you've been to Charleston, you'd love Savannah. And it's this kind of like trifecta of these three southern cities. And they do share a lot of similarities, especially with the vibe and the people and the music and the liveliness and the soul of the places. But I think Savannah has this sort of like quaint approachability to it. It's smaller than Charleston. It's smaller than New Orleans. And it's very walkable. It makes so much sense to walk around Savannah because the whole city was designed in these like square blocks. Literally, there's a bunch of squares all over the city. And it's like anywhere you go, there's a square and they all look different. So you can figure out where you are by like which fountain is in the square or which statue or the Forrest Gump bench or whatever. And you can always find where you are so easily. And if you get lost, you just literally walk around the block. So I think the design of the city was brilliant. There's also so much rich history to do with the Civil War. You can take these walking tours or guided tours. My first recommendation actually is a carriage ride around the city, which obviously you can do in a lot of different cities. And no, you can take a carriage ride in New York. The one in Savannah, however, is highly educational. I learned so much, and you're not on like a crowded tour bus full of people. You're not wearing a headset on your head trying to keep up on a walking tour. It's just you and whoever you're with. And these carriage drivers are super knowledgeable and friendly and funny. And it's like an hour long or close to it. And I had a great time, and I just learned so much. So another great way to see the city and learn some history is to do a ghost tour. So I did this a couple years ago on my birthday, and I had a blast. This ghost tour, I don't want to say it was like scary. Like it's not a scary ghost tour, but it is sort of like, it does give you chills, and you sort of do feel like, I don't know, like the nature of the city itself. There's so much history literally buried there that you can't help but feel like some of it is like moving around you. I was just like on edge the entire time. I was like up at the front, like ready to learn. And it's so much fun. And if you get a good group of people, obviously there's more than just you and your party. But there were some fun people along with us, and we made friends with some of them, and it was just a blast. So I definitely recommend, maybe not for the little ones if you've got any of those. Maybe this is just like a date night thing or something with your friends. As far as some kind of like notable places to see, River Street is obviously super popular. It's right down along the river. There's a huge like steamship. It generally is a pretty lively place, especially in the evening. There's a lot of live music and street performers, which is always fun. A more peaceful location is Forsyth Park. It's beautiful. There's a lot of different parks. Like I said, the city is built in squares, so there's each square is like its own little park, but Forsyth Park is huge, very walkable, covered in these magnolia trees and these beautiful like 100-year-old live oak trees. And it just is magical. Like there is like right around early evening before sunset, there's like this stillness there that you just feel like you could hear a pin drop. And like even the live musicians kind of stop playing, and people sort of like talk in whispers to each other. And even like the little kids running around the fountain don't seem to be making too much noise. Maybe this was just my experience when I've been there, but it just feels like very just like hushed. And I've just felt so at peace there. And there is sort of like an outdoor amphitheater there as well, where they sometimes do concerts and plays and live music. And one of my favorite restaurants in Savannah has a like satellite location there as well, where you can get coffee and cocktails in the evening. And that is the Collins Quarter, which I know you've been to, Jess. And I literally tell everyone about this place. I can't take credit for it originally. My friend Marissa originally recommended it to me years ago, and I have been so many times, and I love it. It is kind of an Aussie style brunch place at heart, but they also do an excellent dinner service and a like takeout coffee service on the side of the restaurant as well. The menu is phenomenal. Literally, you cannot go wrong with anything on the menu. I love going for brunch, though. That's my favorite time of day to be there. And it's just beautiful. I remember being like, if I ever got married, like I would want my rehearsal dinner to be inside of this restaurant. It's just so cute. But yeah, they have a kind of satellite location in Forsyth Park. And then the owners of the Collins Quarter have a restaurant called The Deck over on Tybee Island, which is a little ways out of Savannah, like, I don't know, 30 to 40 minute drive, not even. And it's actually the only restaurant that's like right on the beachfront. So if you go to Tybee Island for the day, hang out at the beach, and you want to come up and have like just like, you know, that good fried seafood summertime, like that you want at like a cool beach bar, that's where you go. And gosh, let's see.
I just have to say, we went to Collins Quarter because of Kristen's recommendation, and we still talk about it as the best brunch place we've ever been to.
Oh, that makes me so
thus
happy.
far. Yeah, I got the breakfast sandwich, and it was phenomenal. And the Thai coffee was really good. And I don't know, Steven got this eggs Benedict with pork thing, and it was
the swine time Benny.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
It was insane.
It's insane.
So, yeah, like I cannot emphasize enough. If
Mhm.
you weren't going to mention it, which I knew you were, I was going to like go off because this
Yeah.
restaurant is so good.
It's so good. Their French toast is phenomenal. Like even
I
their
want
like
everything.
avocado toast, which feels so like basic, is so good. They have this like shakshuka that they do in the style of Southern shrimp and grits, which I think is so cool. It marries this like very traditional Middle Eastern thing with like low country food, and it is so good. I'm like my mouth is watering thinking about it.
Oh
But
my God.
a couple other places you have to eat while you're in Savannah. Of course, I have like too many food recommendations because Savannah has so much good food in such a small space. Like I don't understand. But one place in particular is called Trailer Park. It is indulgent food for sure. It is like wheel me out of here, I'm done. But it's so cool. It literally looks like it's in this trailer. Like the decor is just very like deco and almost like 70s and just fun and wild. And there's always a weird movie playing. And they have like fried chicken tacos that are served in pancake tortillas. Like the tortillas are pancakes, and there's like a strawberry salsa, and it makes no sense, but it's so good. And they have
That's
these,
kind
like,
of brilliant.
loaded waffle fry nachos that are just ridiculous. Literally, we ate there and we were like gonna go do something after, and we just went back to the hotel and like laid in bed and watched Captain America because we were like, we cannot move. We couldn't move. It was wild. But if you don't feel like rolling out of a restaurant, probably one of the best restaurants I've ever eaten at, and definitely one of the coolest experiences, was a restaurant called The Gray. And the chef there, actually, for those of you who are like, I don't like the word foodie, but like people who love to learn about the restaurant industry and the food industry.
The culinary arts.
The culinary arts. So there's a show on Netflix called Chef's Table. And basically they highlight in each episode an incredible chef from some different part of the world. And they did an episode on Chef Mashama Bailey. The Gray is actually called that because it is inside of an old Greyhound bus station. So immediately you're getting these like civil rights movement era vibes. And Chef Mashama Bailey is a woman of color who is doing this restaurant in such a way that she's telling this story of like the history of her people and how they came to the South and what the story evolved in. And she's telling it through her food, and the menu obviously changes seasonally and as she's inspired, but like it is so cool. And it's one of those experiences where you leave and you're like, okay, that wasn't like me sitting down to dinner. Like I just got schooled by this food. and it's very impactful and very humbling and grounding, and it's just cool. And I think it's important for, you know, whatever your creative outlet is, whether you're a painter or a dancer or an actor or a chef, like this is your medium by which you tell your story. And those stories really do deserve to have like a front and center place. And so I just feel very lucky to have experienced it. And I really do want to go back. I'm not sure if it's reopened. I think it has. I hope it has. But so good. And then last but not least, it's actually a speakeasy that was recommended to us by this couple we sat next to the first time I ever went to the Collins Quarter for brunch. If you've ever been inside pre-COVID, the tables are like bistro tables. It's like a brasserie. It's very close together. And this super awesome couple that was like at least 25 years older than we are, was sitting next to us, just started talking to us and was like, oh, you got to go here, here, and here. And they were recommending all these things. And they were like, you got to go to Alley Cats. And I was like, what's Alley Cats? And they told us literally like, you go behind this building and by the dumpster, there's an alley and you go down the stairs. And I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. But we found this speakeasy, and it is very like prohibition style, like dimly lit. The menu is all in newspapers. But when I tell you, like, these were some of the most innovative and interesting cocktails ever. Like if you're someone who's very into trying unique craft cocktails in just a fun environment, it's the place to go. So ends my rant about Savannah. Clearly I'm very passionate about it.
Yes. I love it. Yeah. So when we went there on our road trip last summer, Kristen gave us recommendations for the whole thing. So she's definitely a pro if you're going to Savannah. And I'm just going to give a shameless plug. I made some YouTube videos when we were in Savannah and Charleston last summer. Those are on my YouTube channel, Jessica Faye. They're under Summer Road Trip. So if you want to see what we just described in amazing, beautiful detail, we have videos, so it's all good. But
We'll link them below.
we had the best time, and like I think about Savannah all the time. I can't wait to go back. And we stayed at right near Forsyth Park. It was at Forsyth Park Inn.
Yes.
And it's a little bed and breakfast. You got breakfast every day. It was like delicious, and all of the rooms were so unique and different. And oh my gosh, it was a really, really cute place, and I would go back in a heartbeat to Savannah. So
yeah.
Well, anyways, we're going to move on to the next destination, and this one is a little unexpected. And when I say that, I mean that I did not have many expectations at all for this city, and I ended up having an absolute blast. So I'm talking about this one particularly because I just went in June, and the city is Oklahoma City. Now, you're thinking, Oklahoma, what do you do in Oklahoma? Well, let me tell you. I was summoned there for a wedding, which was a beautiful wedding. But on top of that glorious event for my beautiful friends, Aaron and Jeremy, I traveled there with Steven, my friend Erica, and my friend Angela, and we are all Enneagram 7s. So, being Enneagram 7s, we found the coolest stuff to do in this city. So, the cool thing about Oklahoma City is that everything we wanted to do was super close together. Like, everything was a 5-minute drive, a 12-minute drive, a 7-minute drive. And every time we'd put it in our GPSs, we would laugh because everything was so close, which was awesome. The wedding was at the Oklahoma History Center, and we thought that was really interesting, and I would have loved to go there during regular hours, but honestly, it was probably cooler for a wedding. But they had really beautiful stuff in there. They had this giant globe on the ceiling and a prop plane in the ceiling. So I know that's on many people's lists to visit in Oklahoma, so I'm going to give it a plug. But if you go, picture it as a wedding reception because it was like such a cool venue. We went to a fun museum. I love Instagram type museums, but we went to one in Oklahoma City called Factory Obscura Mixtape. So that had a lot of really obscure and trippy type walkthrough exhibits. There was a lot of cool lights. You could purchase like these $1 glasses and see all these fun like light flares when you're looking at the lights in the ceiling. They had like this really obscure underwater room, like trippy Little Mermaid vibes pretty much. And
into it.
Oh my gosh, it was really fun. Like very strange, like mind bendy, but unique. It was really fun to walk through. Let's see. We went to the Botanical Gardens, which is highly recommended by everyone who we asked. It was closed for COVID on the inside, but the outside was absolutely beautiful. There's this huge koi pond, if you want to even call it a pond. It was like gigantic, and there were these huge fish in it, which was really fun to see. And there were a ton of flowers outside, which was really nice. So that's a great walk. We saw the OKC letters by the Ferris wheel, which was like a really great touristy thing to do, but it was so fun. We were just having a good time and goofing around there. And we saw a sunrise at Hefner Lake. We walked around Plaza Walls, which was like an art district type area. So we got to see a lot of really cool street art. We drove out to Route 66. This was our farthest drive. It was about 20 minutes, but you can get to the Route 66 in Oklahoma. I know, 20 minutes, crazy. And there is a 66-foot tall pop bottle, a soda bottle that lights up all different colors.
I saw that on your story.
Yeah, and it was fun. It was literally at a gas station. It's this little shop called Pops, and they had hundreds of different sodas you could choose from to purchase, and you could take pictures with this giant pop bottle that changed from rainbow colors to green to purple to blue. It's really cool. And oh my gosh, there's just so much to do in Oklahoma City.
Who knew?
I know. It was so fun. We went into this area called Bricktown, which was a great time. We ate dinner right on the water at a Bourbon Street Cafe. It was like a New Orleans style cafe. These little ducks came and swam right up next to us while we were eating. We took a water taxi through Bricktown and learned a ton of information about the area. Like that area, Bricktown, actually got beaten down in the Great Depression. Like economically, it was not doing great. And Bass Pro Shops moved in. Like they were the first ones to build a business there. And now
Really?
Bricktown's like booming and one of the biggest like destinations for people to go visit and hang out in Oklahoma City. So it's super fun. They had a baseball stadium there for their minor league team, the Oklahoma Dodgers. We went to one of their games there. And I need to talk about food.
Obviously.
Number one favorite place that we went to eat, which I did post about as well, is Cafe Cacao. It was rated the 47th best restaurant in the United States by Yelp. And it was so phenomenal. We went up to see the sunrise at like 6 a.m. And then we got to this Cafe Cacao like right in the morning. We rope dropped this restaurant and it was so good. Like on the weekend, it had a 3-hour wait and we went on a Monday morning and we got right in because we rope dropped it. But
Pro tip,
but Cafe Cacao is so good. It's all Latin inspired food. I believe the owners are from Guatemala. So everything's like South America, Central America type food. Their menu is insane. We went for brunch and I think that was the way to go. They had this Nutella cortada with a waffle on top. So good.
A cortado is low-key my favorite coffee beverage.
Well, this one has Nutella, so it just really
and you know how we feel about Nutella.
We love Nutella. It was so good. And I can't really handle too much coffee because I don't really get along with caffeine, but I had some sips of that because it was worth it. So good. I got a cilantro breakfast burrito. It was freaking amazing. And we all shared this French toast. I was like bursting at the seams by the end of this meal, but it was so good. So anyways, oh my gosh, wait, I have to talk about one more thing.
Do it.
We found the best place ever. It was called Flashback Retro Pub. So if you've been to Player One in Orlando, it's kind of a similar concept, but this place was so much bigger and honestly so much cooler. So it was like 2 full rooms of 1980s arcade games, and it just went on forever and ever. Like we were playing Pac-Man, Tetris. There was like an Avengers game. They had Fix-It Felix Jr.
I was going to say it's like Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, it's literally like Wreck-It Ralph. And you either paid $5 to go in or you bought 2 drinks, like super reasonable, but and all the games were on free play. So
oh my gosh,
so much fun.
That is a steal.
It's a steal. And on top of that, the like signature drinks are all themed like old movies. So I got a drink called the Ferris Bueller. There's a drink called the Flux Capacitor.
Oh my god.
Pretty in Pink, Purple Rain, Beetlejuice, Big Bird, Care Bear. Like it's just so funny. They have a signature shot called the Breakfast Club, Karate Kid. Like it's too funny. They went all in with the theming at this place.
They were like, how can we get every millennial ever in one building?
Literally. They had Mario Kart on GameCube and Nintendo 64. They had skee ball. They had everything. So we went in there. I think we were there on a weeknight. It was a Monday night. It was still that day. We did so much on that Monday, but we went in probably around like 5 or 6, and we were the only people there for a long time.
Wow.
Like for 2 hours, I think. And people started coming in around like 7 or 8, and we just like played, and it was so fun. I lost track of time. I just had the best time. So seriously, if you just want to have a good fun time that's like low key, you don't have to drive really far and you just want to do some fun stuff, Oklahoma City was a blast, and I had no idea. The people were also really phenomenal, and it felt like a very family oriented city. Like it was just very pure and full of love. from the perception that I got. And we were there in June, and their Pride stuff was phenomenal. Like, I just felt like it was done so well. So it was a pleasant surprise. And I just really want to talk about it because it was really fun. And I think more people need to know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Like, I would never in my lifetime think to go to Oklahoma City for any reason. The only thing that I think of when I think of Oklahoma City until you went was literally the Chuck Berry song. Like the Route 66 song is like, I'm singing that line about Oklahoma City in my head over and over. That's all I'm thinking of. Or I'm thinking of the musical.
Yeah. And I sang that a lot while I was there.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I did not miss out on the opportunity.
Yeah. But now I'm like, I want to go. I mean, that sounds great to not have to drive super far and have all these things like super close by and like to feel like it's just a nostalgic chill, like low key. I mean, that's what we all need, right? Like we need to relax. We need to play and lose track of time. And I think it's important too, like a lot of the stuff you're describing and you're like, oh, this is kind of touristy. It's kind of touristy. It's okay to be a tourist. I think we all like go to a new city and we're trying really hard to not be a tourist. It's okay to be a tourist. Like this is us giving you permission to be a tourist. You're not from there. Fun. That's okay. People come to your city and they're tourists in your city, and you go to their city and you're a tourist there. Give yourself over to the idea of experiencing something for the first time, because otherwise it takes a little bit of the joy of like that newness away. If you're like, oh, well, I can't act like I've never been here before. Well, you've never been here before. That's the reality. So just enjoy being a tourist.
Moving on.
And we're going to head back up north to New England. One of my favorite cities. It's probably my favorite city in like the northern part of the US, aside from New York City, obviously. But there are some times that I'm like, I don't know. It could go either way here because I really, really love Boston. I've been going to Boston for years and years and years, basically ever since I started college, because one of my very best friends went to college in Boston and I used to go visit her. And then she decided to buy a house and meet the love of her life and get married. And so now she still lives there. So I have an excuse to go to Boston regularly, which is great. And I've been all times of the year, in the winter, in the fall, in the summer. Like, yeah, it's cold in the winter, but you just go to LA Burdicks and get hot chocolate and just wear like 4 sweaters and you'll be fine. But I really quickly want to highlight some of my favorite parts about Boston, because I think it's kind of an underrated city. I think people think of that area and they think of New York. And I think other than the Red Sox, Boston's a great city. So, but if the Red Sox are playing the Yankees and you're in Boston, then go to Fenway and watch the Red Sox get beat.
I just want to go to Fenway. It's so historical.
Really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. The last time I was there, our Airbnb was literally like across from Fenway. And that's obviously so cool. They weren't playing last summer, but it was cool to see it like totally empty and it's just like huge and ridiculous. But so some of my favorite things to do in Boston, other than walk everywhere. I know that sounds crazy. I think if it's temperate weather, it's the summertime or springtime, like just get out and walk if you can. We did so much walking last summer and it was honestly the greatest way to see the city. And I was with people who were going for the first time and they fell in love with the city. If you're into American history, this is obviously a great city to go to. You can go see the Old North Church. There's a really beautiful like Holocaust memorial. If you want to do some shopping while you're in Boston, there are a couple of places I recommend. The first one is in Newbury Street, which has a lot of stores that you will recognize and a lot of ones that are harder to find. Like they have a Muji store, which is where I like to get all my pens.
Ooh.
Like so many fun gel pens that I use all the time. And then there's like a Madewell and Brandy Melville and just like fun boutique style stores that you don't see everywhere. Also lots of good shopping and good places to eat along there as well. My favorite place to eat on Newbury Street, and one of my favorite places to eat in Boston, especially that's like fast casual, is called Greco. Super authentic Greek like street food style place, and it's super tiny. There's like 3 tables outside. You go like down into the building and then come up and sit kind of on the street, but like the gyros and just like the Greek fries with like the feta and oh my gosh. Like, I think about it all the time and crave it all the time. And it will be like my first stop as soon as I get back there again. But if you love Greek food, or you love like the best French fries of your life, you need to go there. Another place to go shopping is called the Prudential Center. It's that super, super, super tall, crazy tall building. It's more commonly referred to as the Pru. It's basically like the biggest mall of your life. So if you're into that, go there. But I really just go there for two reasons. One, there is a rooftop bar and restaurant, which has beautiful views way, way, way up at the top on the like bajillionth floor. And also it is the home to my church, which is called Italy. Which is, if you've ever heard of Italy, there's a couple other locations in the country. I think there's
They have one in New York.
There's one in New York. There's one in LA, and one in Boston. I don't know if there's one anywhere else, to be honest with you. Oh, there's probably one in Chicago. I'm sure there's one in Chicago. It's basically like Disneyland for Italians. It's just like multiple rooms of every imported Italian ingredient, of fresh pastas and wine and cheese and olives and the cookbooks and a Smeg refrigerator that's painted like the Italian flag. And I could spend truly a full afternoon just wandering. I could spend longer than that, honestly. If you are someone who loves to cook or loves Italian food or loves Italian wine, you've just got to go. That's a very niche, like Kristen recommendation, but there is such a strong Italian culture in Boston. Actually, my favorite part of Boston is the North End, which is like right up at the tippy top corner. And that is where all of the Italian immigrants settled and stayed. You walk around and you can stop in any little like trattoria or any little like place on the street and get amazing food. Like there is nowhere to eat that's bad there. There are gelato places everywhere. None of them are bad. You can get Italian pastries and cannoli and just, it's so good. It's like a dream. But my absolute favorite restaurant in all of Boston that happens to be in the North End is called Neptune Oyster. And it's very tiny. There's like not a lot of tables inside. Last summer, we were just doing outdoor seating. So we sat outside and just the best oysters and a great wine list. We had these lobster tacos that were amazing and like scallops. Ooh. And just, we had like a seafood feast and it was incredible. I think that and this other restaurant, not in the North End, called Salty Girl, also super seafood forward, and the drinks were phenom. Those are my favorite two restaurants in Boston. So that is my Boston rundown. I tried to do that as efficiently as possible.
There's so much there.
There's so much there. And honestly, I'm going back in a couple of months. And actually, I have 2 trips there planned before this year is over. So I'm sure I'll have more. Oh, walking around Harvard and Harvard Square also, I really enjoy. And just that campus is beautiful. So if you want to feel like Elle Woods.
All right. We've gone through so many locations on the East Coast particularly, and one like kind of off to the side. But to wrap up for my final choice, it's actually going to complement Boston, which Kristen was just talking about. And I want to talk about Salem, Massachusetts.
Yes.
I went to Salem last year for the first time in October. And most people think of Salem and they think of course, we all know the Salem witch trials. So everyone kind of goes to thinking Halloween. I did go there in October, and it was amazing to be there in October. However, I do think you could go at any time of the year and still have a phenomenal time. The prices are actually a bit higher in October, the closer you get to Halloween. We went at the beginning of the month, but that's just something to keep in mind. But Salem is probably one of the most unique cities, I think, in the United States. And if you are into anything spiritual, anything witchy, it is just such a cool city. It does have a very charming feel, and it also has a really historical feel to it. There are tributes to the Salem witch trials everywhere. You can do walking tours to learn more about the trials and the victims of that. We went to the Salem Witch Museum, so we got to learn a lot about what actually happened in the trials from, what they can tell and what they perceived. You walk through different exhibits, and it tells you like a lot about how witches are portrayed in the media and how it caught on in certain ways to almost shine witches in a negative light, when in reality, that's not the case at all. I think one really cool thing about Salem is just like the culture of the people. Like everyone who works in a gift shop, everyone who works in a restaurant, they all have this really beautiful peace to them and very like kind heart. And everyone I talked to was just so welcoming and so like excited to meet us and chat with us. And I think that felt just anywhere you travel, that's such a great feeling. The shops were amazing in Salem. There was one that we went to called Artemisia Botanicals, and it was like a whole wall of different herbs, which is so cool. I learned about so many different herbs. There were crystal shops all over the place. Just walking in and seeing each one was like half of the fun of the experience of being there, because you can tell that they were all really unique and had their own specialties and had phenomenal employees, really great food. I think one of our favorite places we went was Bambolina. They had pizzas, which was really good, but they also had a grilled Caesar salad, which shout out to my friend Leah, who took me to Salem. She's like a Salem pro and brought me to all these places. So I got to try all this unique stuff. And something else that's really cool is there's a lot of little places where they filmed movies like Hocus Pocus. Mm-hmm. Like we walked by and saw some of the different houses or the front of the area where they had the dance and things like that. So Salem's a blast, and I would go back in a heartbeat. Like if someone was like, you want to go to Salem tomorrow? I'd be like, absolutely yes. It was so much fun. It's a blast. I loved it there and would highly recommend. Also, another plug, I did write a whole blog post on Salem if you want it in detailed written form. We will also link that in the show notes below too. But
of course
we love a good travel guide, and I did have the time to put one together for Salem.
See, we are in the travel guide.
Yes.
It's from Lizzie McGuire movie.
Oh, I know. Wait, that's so funny. I'm picturing the scene now.
See. This was a good handful of places. I mean, some like definitely unexpected ones that you wouldn't normally think of. Some that you may have like, oh yeah, I want to get there someday, but maybe this is like the nudge to do it, and just some classics. So I feel like we kind of covered everything.
Covered it all. And there were so many that I didn't mention that I love, but you know, I could just keep going on and on. There's just so many incredible cities in the US that you could go to. We really only covered the East Coast, like minus Oklahoma being like slightly off the East Coast. But I feel like the cities that we chose to talk about were such great ones. There are so many other great ones as well, but you can find so many little corners of the country that provide you so much adventure. And I think that's what's really cool, is that they all have a different feel to them, and they all have their own unique charm to them too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they all have a different history and a different culture and a different story to tell. And they tell that story through the people that you meet, through the things that you're able to learn. So don't be afraid to be a tourist. Give yourself over to the experience. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Find people who live there and work there. Talk to the people at the market. Talk to the people sitting next to you at brunch.
You're going to find the best stuff to do, because if you find someone who's passionate about the place you're at, you're only going to find the most wonderful places to go.
Yeah. If someone messaged us and said like, hey, we're going to Buffalo, where should we go? We'd be like, oh my gosh, we'd be so excited to share all of our favorite places and memories with you. So I think it's important to remember that like someone coming to your city, even if it feels like your city isn't necessarily a travel destination, like there's somebody who's there for the first time, and you have a chance to contribute to their impression of it. But what I always tell myself when I'm in a new city is like, I'm never going to see any of these people ever again. So I'm not afraid to like ask a question or look like a tourist or, you know, look like I don't know what I'm doing, because the reality is I don't know what I'm doing and I'm figuring it out. But I think this is a great way to kick off travel month. And now I'm like excited for my upcoming trips, and now I want to go to Oklahoma. I really do.
I'm telling you, who knew, right?
So if you are planning some travel coming up and we mentioned a city that you're going to, or we didn't, and you're thinking of some travel coming up and you needed some inspiration, we hope this was helpful. If you've got a travel buddy that you feel like could also benefit from hearing all these recommendations, feel free to share this with them. We would love to grow our ReDIScover family right along with you.
Yes. And if any of these cities hit home for you, take a screenshot of this podcast, post it in your Insta story. Let us know what your favorite city was that we talked about today. Even if it's like your home city and you are feeling proud to be repped on ReDIScover, like let us know. So this was fun. Thank you guys for adventuring along with us. I know this has been a highly requested episode as well, because I think our whole community has a bit of a travel bug to some extent. So this was really fun to rediscover some places that we love and share them with you. So welcome back. We're so glad to be back, and we're so happy to kick off this month. It is going to be a true adventure.
Stay tuned next Tuesday morning, at 8 a.m. Eastern Time.
Love it. Exactly. We will talk to you guys at 8 a.m. next Tuesday. We're back on our normal ReDIScover schedule, and we cannot wait to chat with you again. So thank you so much for listening, and have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of ReDIScover.
Please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening. Your reviews are what keep us going, and we'd love to hear from you.
Join us every Tuesday for a new conversation, and let us know what you think we should talk about next.
Follow us on Instagram at positively.kristen and at jessicafay508. And check out Jess's blog at theroadjesstraveled with 1l.com.
Until next time,
stay frumpy.